And different times she
Wait,
did.
Nej, ask that question one more time.
She still owned the house?
Still owned the house, and several times she did rent it to people. So she had some money coming in. But then eventually she got sick of living with Grandpa and Aunt May. So for one season, when I was a senior in high school, that would be about 1939, we moved back to the farm, just for the heck of it. And she had a porch built, and she was as happy as could be because she loved that house, and it was her own.
Right. But she rented it out all those years.
Pretty much so, yeah. It was never vacant. But it's hard to get renters in that area. What do? They're basically, everybody's a farmer and has a house. And the people, the itinerant people that rent, I don't know what they would be doing. Maybe they would be teachers.
Yeah.
Something, just a temporary place, because there was no hotel in town. Or
can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to live through the Great Depression and what you did and the banks, but more what you did for food and
I don't think I was too aware of it, except that I know my mother was hurting. But things went on as usual with Grandpa. He raised strawberries, which were excellent. He raised raspberries. They had people come to harvest them, and then they were trucked to the markets in Buffalo or the canning factory. They had tons of tomatoes, which went to the canning factory, which was nearby. Canned tomatoes or canned tomato paste. So I don't remember that we felt that we were poor, or because they didn't have stock. I don't know what Grandpa did in the Depression, but we had a gasoline pump in the yard, and so the tractors, I guess, needed gasoline, and my Uncle Charlie's wife and Uncle Fred's wife drove in and helped themselves to the gasoline. And I don't remember what it cost, but things went along pretty well. But I guess the Great Depression would hit city people more.
Yeah.
Because we always had loads of food, and but we had cows, and the cows were milked every day. The milk was brought to the house. The milk was separated in this centrifugal device, where the milk came out of one tube, the cream, which was lighter, came out of another tube, and eventually that was soured, became butter.
Oh, wow.
And then they let some milk become sour, because that was a good ingredient for pancakes. And we had tons of potatoes. We had a root cellar. Oh, the cellar was not, they hadn't dug the cellar yet. It was just a dirt floor, and so it was cold. It was earth. So they could keep cabbage pretty much all winter, carrots and turnips. And then we always butchered a pig, and maybe a cow sometimes. So we always had lots of meat, and some of that was canned, some was made into sausage. Ham and bacon were smoked. So I was never...
Sounds like delicious food.
Well, that was all they knew. But my mother was an innovator. Somehow she heard about Chinese food. So one time she invited my dad's brother, Glenn, and his wife.
What are their names and where did they live?
Glenn Burgott lived in Eden, New York, and his wife was Letty Burgott, and they had a son named Arthur, and he's still alive. He's now 97 years old.
Wow.
He lives in Illinois. But Glenn, and they tried to keep in touch with us after my dad died. And they came over, and my mother served chow mein. And my uncle, he didn't know what he was eating. What is this? He was polite, A little different, isn't it? I don't think she served chopsticks, but she went for the whole bit. She bought a can of those noodles, and she cooked rice, and she had soy sauce. And she thought that was the greatest thing, that she had this new idea. First person in Brant to have chow mein. I don't know if they called it chop suey then, or anybody. They knew nothing about Chinese food. But I remember that he wasn't too impressed, but he was kind enough to try it, and they got a kick out of it. But no, I think the depression had a big effect on my mother because she lost the money in the bank and the stock. But life went on, and she lost her job. That wasn't fair. But
so tell us about, so she lost her job, and then you moved in with Grandpa?
No, we moved in with Grandpa after Daddy died, and we didn't do well with the.
But you said, let me see. I think you said that she lost her job in about 1932, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you moved in with Grandpa in 1934.
No, I think we had probably been there sooner. So let's say maybe, I don't remember if she was still teaching when we went to Grandpa's. But
when she did live with when you lived there, what did she do? What was the regular day like?
Then she was very, very helpful. She could drive a car. Aunt May couldn't. Grandpa couldn't. So she'd take him to the doctor. She'd take him to look at his fields, which his sons probably didn't have the time because they were actually working in the fields. And especially Uncle Charlie, who drove the tractors. And Uncle Fred was like a makeshift engineer. He liked to tinker and putter around. And they had a big greenhouse. Grandpa started raising seedlings, which he sold to other farmers. So he had huge greenhouses full of tomato seedlings and other seedlings, which he sold to people for their gardens. So he had a good business going there, and she helped him in that. And Aunt May did too. They worked very hard. They had to water those plants every day. They had to, answer the phone, or if people drove in and wanted to buy something, they'd have to go out and help them. So they had quite a nice thing going.
How did Supergran get her license?
Oh, they had the first car in Brant. They had like a Model T or before. Oh, yeah.
When did you first ride?
Even Aunt May had a license, but she never drove. Oh, they all had a license. I got my license.
Whose car was it, though? Was John Winters bought a car, but he didn't know how to drive it?
I guess so. I don't know. The first car was kind of an oddity. And if he was willing to buy it, I suppose the sons must have had something to do with that too. But
none of the sons lived there, right? They just came to work, right? It was just
they had their house. It
was the Winters compound.
Yeah. Uncle Fred had a house down the street, which Grandpa gave him, and Uncle Charlie was married much later, so he built his house, and it was quite modern and nice. They're both still standing. But
so you were just the only little kid with all these adults.
Oh yeah, they thought I was terrific though. They spoiled me.
I bet they did.
Mhm. That's why I'm not competitive like with Jürgen in the Scrabble game, and I never had to fight for anything because they gave it to me.